right, everyone, welcome back to Hot Route Takes. I'm your host, Chase Owens, with my good buddies Christian Mills and Brian Sarver. This is going to be our final regular season takes episode. We just got the preview recorded and we'll have that churned out for you guys. Please go give that a listen if you have not already. And we've got a lot to discuss in this episode. I think a good topic that we can really deep dive into since we're in NFL Week 18 is the head coaching landscape across the league. There's a lot of positions that are open already, with interim guys finishing the year out over in LA, Las Vegas. And then you've got a lot of guys who you would presume are on the hot seat week 18, another loss, and as soon as season's end, you would think they're out the door, a la Ron Rivera, guys like that. So we're going to go through each division, say each team. A lot of these are going to be quick, like, okay, that guy's safe, don't even need to say a word about it. But then we'll get to certain teams where we could differ and lean a certain way of whether that guy needs to go, whether he needs to stay, and if he does need to go, what direction should they look? So we're not going to waste any time. Brian, I know you got the list pulled up. I'll let you take it from here, and we'll go through each team.
All right, first one, the New York Jets. Robert Saleh.
Robert Saleh. So I think he has been backed by the front office, if I'm not mistaken, as pretty secure in his job. Given how the season played out, I think if Aaron was healthy all year and they failed to miss the playoffs, I think he would have been out the door, no questions asked. But since he never got that opportunity to see what this roster looks like with a competent and proven quarterback, I think the front office will at least grant him that. I don't see a direction being moved. Now, that said, if Rodgers is to be hurt next year and they miss the playoff again, I'm not sure he's that fortunate. So he's just got to hope for Aaron to come back healthy and the guy he once was. So I'm going to say Saleh stays.
I think even if Aaron was healthy and the season went like this, he'd still be there. And I didn't think just because, one, the front office, I think, was more sold on Aaron Rodgers than maybe the head coaching staff, you could argue. But I mean, they're definitely not going to say no to Aaron Rodgers. But I will say the Jets, what is Robert's big thing? Defense. And since he's been there, the Jets' defense has been, a great unit when they're not, tired as heck. So I think with that, he would have kept his head coaching job no matter what, just because how great this defense has been since he's took over the team.
Yeah, I guess my rebuttal to that would be, you need to have a good offense to win games. So, and defensive head coaches you've seen in the past, Brian Flores had an awesome defense, but got fired at the end of the day. I think that you got to be able to marry both sides of the ball together. You got to be able to do a little bit of both, or get guys in the building that can do it for you, a la Mike McDaniel having Vic Fangio. So, I don't think he's on the hot seat or anything like that. I think he's pretty secure, but I think next year, it could definitely happen. The offense has to come together. This team has to make a playoff push. They are kind of pushing their chips towards the center. Things need to happen next year, or maybe he's gone. But moving on to the next team, the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick.
One I didn't think we'd be talking about in any type of serious capacity, given what Bill Belichick has done for that franchise. But as the seasons went on, it's become less of what Bill Belichick has done and maybe more of what Tom Brady has done for that franchise. And that's been the talk around the New England Patriots. I think a lot more fans, a lot more media have really placed the onus on what Brady was able to accomplish there. And he went out and did it with Tampa Bay as well. And now you've seen New England look like one of the worst teams in football since his departure. I know Mac Jones' rookie year, the defense was a great unit, and they partnered those things together with Mac playing better football to a winning record. This year was just a mess, absolute mess. Mac Jones benched left and right. I think given how the season's gone, Bill Belichick has a desire to keep coaching, but he doesn't want to do so in a place that has truly handicapped itself with bad drafts and free agent signings these last few seasons. I think he's ready for a different challenge, and he's looking for a more sure thing behind under center with a proven quarterback. Maybe Christian's Chargers come into play here. As for New England as an organization, I think they just need you're replacing one of the all-time greats and coaches. I think they do it, but They do it with a guy who has the respect of a locker room already. I don't think they go like a young, innovative mind. I think they just want a players type coach, not even one that's looking to. You're going to try to win games, but just a guy that the players respect. And he don't have to be a brilliant mind because you're playing in a division that's going to have 3 better rosters than you. So maybe they just need to work on creating a new identity as a franchise. I think they'll do so by moving on from one of the best coaches of all time.
You covered a lot, but I will say Bill Belichick does get a piece of the pie. I think, with Tom Brady and a lot of those teams that Tom Brady are on, you look back at those Super Bowl teams and read some of the guys on the defensive side, and you go, yeah, Tom Brady was great, but there's one Super Bowl. Everyone knows this one definitely from our area, and it's the Atlanta one. What was the score? And since that score happened, how many more points did they put up? I hate to break it to you, but that's Bill Belichick at work. So I just think Bill Belichick, like you said, I will add on to this, and I will take it in a different route than you did. Bill Belichick has built a lot of things here, a lot of great things. But with that building that he did, he's built them to what they are now, and I think he sees his time to build himself on out of here. Definitely in the free agent signing. Me and Brian's talked about it a lot off camera. The 2 tight end signing of Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry. No number 1 wide receivers, just a lot of signings and free agency. And a lot of fingers are pointed at Bill Belichick, but I wonder how much is really the owner also. So I just think it'd be a nice step for Bill Belichick, even if they do want to keep him. I think this would be a step for him just to leave. Like Chase said, get an elite quarterback and let it be kind of what it was with the Tom. Hey, I'm going to get me an offensive guy in here. You coach the offense. I'm going to get this defense going back, go get me some veteran guys, or maybe not even veteran guys, but maybe we get a young not rookie quarterback, but a young quarterback that, isn't getting paid a lot, and then he could build up a defense and really hum around with one of these teams that already have a quarterback that's there.
Yeah, this is something I talked about in the preseason as one of my hot takes for the season. It was Bill Belichick getting fired. The roster, it's completely, and it's, pointless. Like, there's nothing there to scare you. And then you just kind of look at the full body of work and how he's gotten to where he is now. Cam Newton led Patriots team in 2021 was much better than this team. And they've just taken steps back each year since. And I think that's kind of an indictment of what Tom Brady was able to do for this team, like you guys said. But also, I think it's Bill Belichick's washed there's not a whole lot of offensive minds out there that are within that tree. Josh McDaniels ran that show for a long time on the offense, and that's never really been Bill's show. He's a defensive guy. He's special teams. He wins in the margins, all that good stuff. But I think at the end of the day, they move on a new direction, but they may not completely move in the new direction. Might go with a disciple and hire Brian Flores as the head coach or something. I don't know. I think that'd be a bad move. I think anyone on the picture tree at this point is kind of proven to be a bad move. But moving on to the next division. No, just kidding. Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel.
No, they could lose this week and they could lose first round. He's there to stay.
There to stay.
Yeah, I don't think anything's happening there. Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott.
Interesting. Given the team that's really never got to the place that their fans and the NFL media has thought they were supposed to get, and that's a Super Bowl with a great quarterback under center. These been durable, and you put talent around them. You would think that's been in the making, but it's going to take some type of run, I think, this year to assure that McDermott's back. If they are to lose Week 18 and completely miss the playoffs, then you have a serious conversation. I think, given how this year played out and the end of the season, they went through a lot of change and offensive coordinator and these things. I would lean no, because who are you going to replace him with? But if there's a guy they really like, a coach they really like, and they have the inside track at getting him, I think it's not a bad move to move on. So 50-50, we really have to see how Week 18 plays out.
I think either way this week plays out, I think he's there to stay. I think we've seen these players definitely out of his 9/11 comments. We've heard that these players stand behind him no matter what. And I think, you look back and see that Von Miller hasn't been 100%. White went down. Matt Milano went down. This defense has took a lot of gut shots. And I just think with that being said, that's his forte. He's a defensive guy, not an offensive guy, and that's been a unit that's he still kept the defense kind of afloat with those guys missing. So I think he's done enough to keep his job, and even having Buffalo a chance with all those injuries to me is impressive enough to have a chance to win a division, ultimately letting him keep his job.
Yeah, it did look kind of stark at one point in the season for Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills, but this is not something they're new to. I think last couple seasons they've actually got off to a pretty slow start and then caught fire towards the end of the season, but ultimately come up a little bit short in the playoffs. Really hadn't had that playoff run that a lot of Bills fans out there thought they would have. So I think Sean McDermott is safe. I do think if things go off the rails next season, which they very well could, they have almost this year. They could miss playoffs this year altogether. I still think he stays. But moving on, Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, not even
a question. Never had a losing season. You really haven't had a very talented quarterback since been retired, and he's still putting out winning seasons. So 17 straight of those will keep you in place.
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, considering he's I was about to say, considering he's a coach of the year candidate, I would be shocked if any AFC North team moves on from their coach. The only one that makes a little bit of sense to me is Cincinnati, but you've got the injury bug to lean on with that. So yeah, I don't know if we need to spend a whole lot of time here. I think every AFC North team retains their head coach. Would y'all agree?
Zach Taylor got lucky. Is what I'm gonna say. Zach Taylor got lucky. Jake Browning had a couple of good weeks. Next year is Zach Taylor's big year. Is all I'm gonna say. Without Joe Burrow, it does not look pretty, and with Joe Burrow, it has. But next year's big year for Zach Taylor.
I agree. All right, moving on to AFC South. Mike Vrabel, Tennessee Titans.
One of the more underrated coaches to me. I think he's very good, but I don't know what Tennessee's front office evaluates him as. If I were them, I'd keep him and see what he can do with a competent franchise QB. Now, if they think that's Will Levis, I think they're doing themselves a disservice because I don't think he is that guy. So Vrabel could be set up for failure next year, and if they're not missing the postseason with Levis at QB, then I think it's a serious conversation. For now, even though they had a poor season, I'm going to say he is retained.
I'm going to say, I did have a little early in the season saying he probably more than likely will be gone. I really thought back on it and think, Ryan Tannehill starts all year. I don't think their record looks like this. I think this year was not so much on the coaching staff. It's more on the GM drafting 2 quarterbacks back to back, making them have to play both rookie quarterbacks to see what they had in reality. So I think at this point, it's going to come down to what they do next year. I think if they draft another guy, then this is going to be his, hey, you're the coach, you can't get it right, it's not us going to happen kind of mentality. So I think next year's his big year, but I think he's way better than coaching. A lot of these coaches we said should, keep their jobs. I think he's up there on one of the best coaches in the NFL, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I like Mike Vrabel as well. I think that this Tennessee team is somewhat of a directionless franchise right now with not really an idea of where they are as terms of life cycle of a franchise. They went in for DeAndre Hopkins. They still got a 30-year-old star running back in Derrick Henry who has regressed. I think that this team is severely limited in several areas, particularly the offensive line and the defense second and third level. I think their secondary struggled a lot this year, and I'm going to kind of go right along with what you guys said. I think it's more on the GM than Vrabel, but if they do a complete reset, a lot of the times that can be the coach as well. So I'm not going to say that's going to happen just quite yet. I think Vrabel's a good coach, and he's proven that. I think they continue and ride that out. But moving on to the next one, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Doug Peterson, which I never thought that this would be a question, but maybe it is. What do you guys think?
For me, if you look at Jacksonville as a whole, you think of untapped potential with both Trevor Lawrence and that offense and the team as a whole, because they have the potential to be a top 3, top 2 AFC team if Lawrence cuts down the turnovers, if they clean up a few things and get playmakers around Josh Allen on the defense. But that said, look at where the team was before Doug Peterson. And they'd be just foolish to see that and how that scenario played out with Urban Meyer and those guys, and pretty much the same team, a lot younger and a couple less playmakers that they've drafted since then. They were one of the worst teams in football. and Peterson righted the ship. They got them an AFC South championship or division title. They're in line with a win this week. They win another one. I don't think you can ask a whole lot more than that. So I'm going to say Peterson stays.
I'm gonna say this week is a big week for him. I think if they lose to Tennessee, I'm not gonna say he loses his job, but if they don't win the division and they've been holding it this long, had the hot start, and my big thing is he's supposed to be an offensive guy. Trevor Lawrence came out being, hey, this is the next Andrew Luck. I understand Urban Meyer. I mean, could ruin a lot of things with that, but I mean, Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be this great guy. You're supposed to be an offensive master. You had Nick Foles win a Super Bowl. If you can do that with him, how come you hadn't unlocked the next step of Trevor Lawrence? I think maybe ownership would question that this offseason, but if they make it to the playoffs, I mean, 2 back-to-back playoffs, the comeback against, I hate to say it, but the Chargers, that'd be enough to let him keep his job.
Yeah, I think Doug P does keep his job. I think the offense has had its moments this year, and I honestly think the shortcomings of this Jacksonville team really boils down to what Trevor Lawrence has done this year. I think the turnovers are a little egregious, particularly the fumbles. They're just, ridiculous. I mean, yeah, I think he has the most fumbles in the NFL. And just offense is still there. I think they got pieces to work around. I don't think Calvin Ridley's a true number one. I don't think Christian Kirk's a true number one. I think Ingram's a good tight end. I don't think he's a great tight end. Etienne's a good back. But just all in all, I don't think this offense is elite. I don't think they have a true top-end talent other than Trevor Lawrence on this offense. And Lawrence has not really taken the step you would have expected him to take, given his talent level, given what he was able to accomplish last year. Trevor Lawrence has got to be better. I think it's on him, not Dougie P. But moving on, the Colts and Shane Steichen.
Oh, man, easy.
Yeah,
He's potential coach of the year as well, having this team flirting for a playoff spot in Week 18.
Yep, agreed.
Agreed. No Anthony Richardson and did what he did.
Yep.
Yes.
Impressive, to say the least. D'Amico Ryans and Houston Texans.
Same billing. Yep. Same billing. I know you got a great rookie quarterback really leading the way, but he's really working with this defense. It was a terrible unit last year, and they've just 180, have a chance to win the South Week 18. Great stuff from D'Amico.
Agreed. I think that team could be really nice next year, potentially. The Chargers.
Better late than never, baby. Woo! God
I think it already happened. I know Christian's happy about that, but Bill Belichick, Christian, is that the move here?
I don't know, man. There's another guy I want, but we have Kellen Moore, so I got to see what we do with Kellen Moore to really see what direction we're going in. Because there's another guy I want, but I don't know if we're gonna get him.
Okay. Care to share who that is?
There's a guy out there in Detroit that I'm liking what I'm seeing, what he's doing with Jared Goff. I'd love to see what he could do with my boy Justin Herbert.
I like that.
Yeah. So you're not a fan. I mean, the interim coach is a great story, but I think all things considered, not many interim guys get to keep the label and or remove the label and become the actual guy. Very slim chance that happens. I would agree with Christian. I would not be rooting for that to happen. Great guy, great story, but the idea of an offensive guru to partner with Justin Fields, that just seems too good to pass up. So I'm with you there, Christian.
Justin Fields. Herbert.
My fault.
The Raiders and Antonio Pierce.
This is the one I keep. The interim coach, that's a true player's coach. He's played in the league for so long, and the Vegas looked dead to water. I think they had the worst coach in football in McDaniels, and they ripped that Band-Aid off, got rid of him. Finally, a guy that brings some stability to the organization. You just give him some better pieces on offense, an actual quarterback. He's got that defense playing good, so he just get the other side of the ball taken care of. I think he's a good guy to keep around.
I think ultimately, I hate to say it, but I think they're going to move on. I think just Mark Davis in Las Vegas, the money talks, they're going to get him to, kind of move out. Same thing they did last year. I hope they would learn upon the lesson, but I mean, he has a quarterback in Jimmy G. Since he's took the head coaching job, has not brought him out once. So I wonder if, the GM and maybe ownership's looking at that and thinking, why didn't you at least try once after you've seen, the rookie quarterback struggle this year? But, I mean, I don't really know what's the thing with Jimmy G or even, the next guy they could throw out there. So I'm just curious on I mean, I think the players want to keep him, but I mean, the same thing last year. So I just think ultimately history is going to repeat itself.
That's a fair point, Christian. I think they keep him, and I get the point of not many interim coaches end up getting retained, but I just think that he's done a good job, and it's clear as day, night and day between what Josh McDaniels is doing and what Antonio Pierce has done, and the way these players react and respond to his coaching. I think they played a lot better. So I think that if they're going to make a good decision, it'd be keeping him, but we'll see. Moving on, Kansas City, Andy Reid. I mean,
No shot.
Yeah. Denver Broncos, Sean Payton.
I think they need to.
finesse.
Yeah, I think they need to because my thoughts on Sean Payton have been well versed throughout this podcast, but that Denver's organization is just one of the more messy in all of football. So I'd expect him to stick around, get a quarterback that's actually his guy, and they see where the team goes from there.
Yeah. Christian, what you got, man?
Oh,
Sean
no,
Payton?
you got finesse. He's finessed so good that you can't get rid of him.
With Sean Payton, I think that if he gets a different quarterback in here that maybe fits his offense a little bit better, that he can have a little bit more success. I'm not a tremendous Sean Payton supporter or anything like that, but I do think he keeps his job. Moving on to the NFC East, Dallas Cowboys, Mike McCarthy.
I think he solidified it, especially if Dallas just takes care of business and wins the East, something they haven't done in a while. To me, the interesting note of Dallas is Dan Quinn. He's the defensive coordinator. He's going to be a name that's going to be talked about for a lot of these potential jobs. I'd be surprised if he doesn't land a head coaching job this offseason. As for McCarthy, I think he's safe to stay.
Dang, hot take, man. I think if the Cowboys get, they won't get bounced out first round, definitely if they win the division. But I think if they have, a playoff berth, exit their first game in the playoff, Dak Prescott played bad, I think, it'd be Dan Quinn, the new head coach of the Cowboys. I think, you know how Jerry Jones is, how he wants, his goal is to win. And we done seen, Mike and him bump heads already this season a little bit and him not liking some of the things going on. But I think, Dan Quinn and what he's accomplished with this defense, moving, you can say he moved their defensive players to the positions they're in now and making definitely Michael Parsons, who would have thought to move him from linebacker to the line. I don't think many DCs would have touched him. And Dan Quinn did. So I just think, Dan Quinn easily could be an underdog story of scooping out of nowhere and taking the Cowboys' job if the season doesn't end right.
I will say that interesting thing that could develop there is if Dan Quinn takes that job, if you want to stay in-house, you can promote Al Harris to defensive coordinator. He's one of the most talked about names for a defensive coordinator job because of the job he's done with Dallas's secondary year in and year out since he's taken that position. That'd be interesting, and I think a first-round exit doesn't eliminate that possibility.
Yeah, I think Mike McCarthy does keep his job, particularly if, Dallas Cowboys win the division over the Philadelphia Eagles and go to the playoffs and play who? No, they won't be playing them, will they?
They'd be the 2 seed because they have the tiebreaker with
Correct.
Detroit, so they'd be playing like a New Orleans, a Seattle,
Tampa Bay, maybe
Green Bay. Or if Tampa wins the division, NFC wildcard's still up in the air. But a team they should beat.
Top winner.
Yeah,
more than likely.
No. If they win the division, they'll play the lowest wild card.
Oh yeah,
well,
because
that's what I'm saying. Which will well, never mind.
Yeah, the South winner, they'll have the worst record. They'll have the worst record, but based on NFL seedings, the NFC South winner is going to be the 4th seed and hosting a playoff game and probably getting bounced by Philadelphia if we figure things to play out how they should.
Yeah. I do think he keeps his job, though. But moving on to the New York Giants, Brian Daboll.
Underrated coach. I think he should keep his job. Whether they do that, I don't know. I think they will keep him. He really overachieved his first year, got him to the playoffs, so I'd be shocked if they move on. But I want to see him stick around. He's a good guy.
I think they should move on, but with the Daniel Jones contract, him being a quarterback guy, and I guess ultimately I would think he's signing off on the Daniel Jones and being the reason that he's going to show growth that will keep his job because of that. But I mean, I think he should go just because of what we've seen with the quarterbacks there this year and the quick pulling of what they did with Tommy. And then now Tyrod Taylor, the pulling, the starting, and now him back in and doing what he's doing. I think, I would look at that closely, but I think the Daniel Jones contract's keeping this team where they're going to have to stay with who they got.
I like Duvall. I think he's a good coach. I think that this team has been severely shorthanded on offense for a little while here, as far as weapons go, as far as the offensive line being young and inconsistent, and then the quarterback play just being all over the place with Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor. But also, I want to give them some props here because the Giants have been very competitive in many games this year that I didn't think they were going to be competitive in. And Tommy DeVito, who the heck is this guy coming in and blowing it up? That says something about the coaching, in my opinion. And then Tyrod Taylor having some of his better games under Brian Daboll in this offense with the lack of weapons. I mean, I think having quarterbacks in this offense, being able to achieve something with the lack of weapons that they have accounts for something. So I think Brian Daboll is a good coach. I think he keeps his job. He might be there for a while. But moving on, Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Sirianni.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, a hot topic one. Maybe the front office, and you hear the players today, A.J. Brown really backing this guy. But if you were just listening to the fan base, they've been calling for his head for the last 6 weeks because he refuses to run the ball, as they say. I mean, he's kind of just playing the hand he's been dealt this year, I think. Swift just hasn't been as electric as we hoped for. The line hasn't been great in run blocking scenarios. Given that he got them to a Super Bowl the first year and they're going to make the playoffs, I don't think they move on. The players still have his back, so it would take a miracle for them to move on to me.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. Just like Chase said, just too many what he's done since he's been there and getting where they're at this point. I just definitely don't see them firing him. But I mean, we've seen them fire a coach off of a Super Bowl win not shortly after. So I mean, it is the Eagles. We see how their fan base are, and we see that this team moves on very quickly from coaches. I mean, they did have Andy Reid at one time.
Yes.
Yeah, that is very true. I think Nick Sirianni keeps his job for many of the reasons you guys did list, but I do think if the Eagles, with the amount of talent they do have, continue to underachieve next season, he could see himself on the hot seat. But I think for right now, given his resume, given what the Eagles have been able to accomplish, I think he's safe. But man, my boy Swift actually had the best season of his career this year with 1,300 all-purpose yards.
Hey, heard all the time. I'm proud of you.
I was about to say, man, just look at what Miles Sanders did though last year, and he's like nothing this year for Carolina. That Eagles line is something else, but maybe that's why the fans have been calling for him to be gone, because they really just still don't run the ball. They put it in Jalen Hurts' hands, and that's why the offense has been sputtering and inconsistent all season long.
Yeah. Last one, 4.6 yards per carry. Washington Commanders, Ron Rivera.
Oh, I think the safest bet. Ron Rivera's gone. 100%. Not a doubt in my mind. He should have been gone last season, in my opinion. QB carousel with Sam Howell. He looked great first half of the year. Then he's looked like one of the worst quarterbacks the second half, getting outplayed by Jacoby Brissett. Just a mess of an organization, really. So I think they move on the direction they need to head. I don't know if they promote the enemy or if they look for outside guys. I'd be interested to talk about this team a little bit more in the offseason because I truly have no clue where they need to go.
Yeah, I think, Ron Rivera, I think you can say he's done. Hopefully, I think forever at this point, like for good.
Yeah.
And I just think, with Sam Howell, I ain't going to talk too much on it because it's about, the head coaches. But, I mean, it's hard to judge a guy when he doesn't have time to even do anything. I understand Jacoby Brissett has looked better, but, veteran player, understand the system a lot better than Sam Howell. But that's a talk for another day off season. But Ron Rivera, I think, other than his run with the Panthers that 1 year, what has he done is my big thing. So I think you move on, new ownership, Magic Johnson, and new owners do not want Ron Rivera.
Yeah, I think Ron Rivera's on his way out, man. Ain't much good coming out of that whole situation right now. But moving on, I don't think he keeps his job. Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus.
Ooh. Another one I'm kind of 50-50 on, but I think he'll stay and have a very short leash next season. That's what I'm going to roll with. But if there's a guy they like that they can bring in-house, I don't think Bears fans would be upset to see a change in that position.
I think I want to say he loses it, but I want to say he keeps it. But it's just a new GM, used to be a player. So I think with that being said and seeing that the players kind of haven't talked bad about the coaching there this year, will be where he'll be able to keep his job for at least 1 year. And I think what direction to go into the draft determines a lot about his coaching job.
Yeah, Justin Fields did make some comments earlier in the year and got a lot of criticism for it on, I don't know if he's directly blaming the coaching or whatever or whatnot. That being said, I think that they've kind of turned things around. Later portion of the season, you kind of see what this team can be, potential that they do have, kind of building up this defense, trading for Montez Sweat, Tremaine Edmonds kind of coming alive a little bit, and adding some more pieces to this defense, adding another receiver to this offense. I think that this coaching staff can stay in place one more year just to kind of give him another chance next year. But I do agree with Chase. He could be on a short leash next year. Moving on to the next one, Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions.
Easy, yes. I think given Detroit's season, not only is he avoided any type of firing, he's assured himself a contract extension. Would not be shocked the least bit to see Detroit extend him for a few more years after their season finishes.
Yeah, Detroit can't be Motor City without Motor City Dan Campbell. I think he stays.
Yes, sir.
Keeps his job. Been electric since he's been there. Really changed Detroit. And love. Hate to say it, but what he has accomplished and love how much he loves Jared Goff and what he's done with that guy. That enough keeps his job for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think he keeps his job. I don't think this is even worth debating. Move on to the Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur.
I think an underrated coach. He is really gelled with Jordan Love in the second half of the year. For that reason, they just need to build a little bit better on the defense and some more weapons in the draft, free agency. I think they get that done, and he sticks around.
I think with the young talent he has on offense, what he has done, I think instead of a head coaching, maybe a new DC could get hired, maybe. But head coach wise, I think he stays. He's keeping his job. What he has done with his injuries on that team, Aaron Jones being in and out, and just being able to be, second place in the division, and as long as they win, that's where they're going to finish. So I think with that on his reputation, a big bounce back since what happened last year. So he'll keep his job.
Yeah, I think LaFleur is a good head coach. I think he's one of the brilliant young offensive coordinators in the NFL. I think that this offense is brightest days are ahead of it, and the Packers have potential to be really nice next year. I think it's going to be in large part due to Matt LaFleur's offense. So I think he definitely stays. But moving on to the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell.
I don't think you can put the injuries to Kirk Cousins and missing Justin Jefferson a big portion of the year on him, given that this team won a lot of close contests in its first year and played really over their heads and was a high playoff seed in the NFC. The injuries kept them from making the playoffs this year. They still have an outside shot, but his performance has nothing to do with his coaching. I think it's just been that injury. So he sticks around and gets another chance.
I think he'll get to stick around, but I think my big thing on him, it kind of shocked me when I look at this team, is their home record, 2-6. I don't know if that's so much on coaching or the injuries at the timing they happen, but definitely have to be better at home moving forward. And I think what he has done, I think you can say with the Joshua Dobbs at that one stint, that he's got this offense through a lot of quarterbacks and at least made it look somewhat decent when it's not Kirk Cousins out there. And that's enough to keep his job.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are another one of these almost directionalist franchises. I'm not really sure what they want to do. I think their roster is lacking in a lot of different areas. I know the defense, they're overachieving by a good amount right now. I don't think they're the most talented defense, but Brian Flores really has these guys playing hard. But on the other side of it, I think if they move on from Kirk Cousins and kind of do a reset, that could be Kevin O'Connell leaving the building. So I think this is a very potential, like it could happen this offseason, but I wouldn't bank on it. I think he's done a pretty solid job just kind of keeping the team together, overachieving last year, and kind of regressing to the mean a little bit this year. But I think that really this team is in need of a reset and trying to just kind of pull some draft capital, get rid of some of the bad contracts on the team. But yeah, I think O'Connell does keep his job, but one of the more likely, if you will, potential firings. But moving on to the next one in the NFC South, Arthur Smith and the Atlanta Falcons.
I try not to wish bad on no man. I'll
That's how you started off.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, if there's a guy that this podcast and an entire fan base is rooting to be out the door, it's Arthur Smith because of the untapped potential of the offense. And I know the quarterbacks are what they've been. But, man, at the end of the day, no matter who you got under center, their straight-up refusal to use weapons like Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Drake London really just puts a sour taste in my mouth. And if they lose this week, they'll end up 7-10 with one of the easiest schedules in NFL history. Not good enough. I think he needs to go. Whether that happens or not, I'm not sure, but I would lean it does happen.
Yeah, I think he would. I have to say he's got to go. I mean, we said it. Chase just really beat the drum, but I just think if they go in a direction of maybe drafting a quarterback, it's just like where they're going to draft. It's not going to be, to me, a big enough game changer to push this offense to the next level they need to go to. And I just don't think. I mean, to me, Atlanta's never been a team to go sign an old veteran to at least try to get like a 1 year, move the offense in the right direction. I just don't see that happening with this team. So with that being said, I think Arthur Smith, they get fired. They may be going a completely new direction, maybe getting a different head coach, maybe not so focused on the offensive side. But either way, Arthur Smith, we know who he is, who his family is. He's got plenty of money. So even if he loses his job, he will be fine.
Yeah, I think he needs to go. Like you guys said, I don't want to beat the drum too much here, but I think the direction I would go in if I had any sort of decision-making power for Atlanta is I'd be going after one, Ben Johnson, and two,
that's
Kirk
my guy.
Cousins.
Kirk
Cousins, Ben Johnson with that offense, I think it could be nice. So that being said, I think that Arthur Smith needs to go. Moving on, Carolina Panthers.
He already
gone. Yeah,
he already gone.
Not interim. Yeah, Frank Reich. That experiment was a major flop. They could have had C.J. Stroud. I was a Bryce Young believer. I'm still not writing him off yet, but he looked helpless this year, and he very much was so. No help outside of an older Adam Thielen. That line was terrible. A lot of things to build in Carolina. It starts with finding the right guy in the head coaching circles because the interim's not going to be the guy. Who that is, I don't know. But they need to really start from the top. The ownership's been poor these last few years. That's not going to change. So you got to find a guy that's going to come in and change that culture and be able to deal with the antics of that ownership group. And that's a big challenge, but they'll have to do it.
Yeah, I think we know it's a new guy coming in, but it's just like who's going to accept the job is my big thing. With like Chase said, the ownership and the owner wanting to be so hands-on, even more than Jerry Jones, and that's crazy to say that somebody's more hands-on than him. But ultimately, that's how I look at the Panthers right now. It's just you don't know what the chain of command really is in Charlotte right now. But I just think you got to get the right guy in, get the owner to calm down, tell him, hey, watch the game, keep your mouth shut. Let's keep it. Hey, it ain't instant, brother. We got to build a team. It ain't instant.
Yes. Preach it.
Yeah. So Dave Tepper being one of these guys that kind of likes to swing for the fences, aggressive owner, has his input obviously in the team. I do think that he's definitely going to try to swing big for the head coaching. And I think maybe he goes for a storied head coach with lots of success and also has a little bit of a GM background. What do you think, Bill Belichick, Panthers head coach? Kind of fits. That's a big swing.
I'm
Think
sure
any
he'd love that, but I'm just not sure Bill is on board with how that situation is. But
I don't think there's many
Facts.
teams that will be on board for bringing Bill in, given his recent line of work and what it's looked like. So that's just my
I think
take
there's a
on it.
lot of teams, bro.
Bro, no, I
yeah,
don't think there is. I really don't. He
I
can't
do.
draft worth shit.
As
Oh,
long
we're
as you
gonna
got an offense.
disagree. Yeah, we're gonna disagree there. That's what I'm saying. Just, I mean, put him with Justin Herbert, man, and let him take care of the defense. I know that's what Christian wants. I think it's a great matchup, and
Him or
I
my
don't know
boy in
if,
Detroit. One of them.
yeah.
I hope someone does, man. I don't think it'll be a good move, but I think he's past his prime. Anyway, moving on to the next team here in the New Orleans Saints and Dennis Allen.
He's been underwhelming since he got the job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Saints have been salary cap restricted in what they can do in off seasons. They haven't really hit home runs in the draft. They've drafted nice players in Chris Olave, but just nothing to change the game for the franchise as a whole. That really boils down to not having the elite quarterback since Drew Brees' retirement. I think they're going to look at cleaning house and just resetting the franchise a little bit this offseason. So I would expect him to be gone. Although they can still win the South week 18. If he makes the playoffs, his chances go up a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope, like Chase saying, that this would be, after this year, this is, hey, let's get the cap right. Let's reset everything. We tried. We threw it in. We knew the division wasn't going to be that good this year, and ultimately we failed. So let's go ahead, clean house, get new people in here, restart this cap that, hey, it led us to win a Super Bowl with Drew Brees, but let's go ahead and move on from what we had and let's move on to the future. So I think that'd be a great idea. And we've seen, their defense is playing great, but this offense, since Derek Carr took over, has not been nothing insane. So, and I think they're looking around and seeing this division not having great offenses either. And they're like, why don't we be that team that go get a head coach and to really make this offense look great?
Yeah, I think what Chase said, being up against the cap, kind of restricts what you can accomplish in the offseason, the players that you can bring in. But if you are in that position, you're repeatedly finding value deals and trying to get in players with a good value to come in. You're not ever really swinging for the fences and bringing in big-time players. And I think that this defense being where it is, being upper in the age, Derek Carr not being what they envisioned him being, and then just continuing to recycle and try to push all your chips in year after year after year. I think eventually it has to give in. I think that maybe this is the year. I mean, how many mediocre seasons do you want to have in a row before you decide to make that change? And, 9-8, 7-10, 8-9 potentially this year. So I think this should be a full reset for the franchise, but Saints history tells us it won't be. So we'll see what happens there. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Todd Bowles.
I think they overachieved this year, according to all our books. Really, I've had them finishing last, and that was really to do with the defense being not talented enough, in my opinion, come season preview. But he's had that unit playing very well all year. He is a defensive guy after all, and Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and White, or is it Rashad White, right? The running back. Yeah, they've taken care of the offense, and they've got them on the inside track to win this division. So I'll say he stays.
Yeah, I say he stays, and like Chase said, the offensive coordinator, Dave, can't think of his last name, came from Seattle, assistant coach. He's really, I mean, you could say he was part of the reason that Baker Mayfield's kind of got changed over kind of into what he's doing this year with the Mike Evans, White. So I think, the head coach is focusing on the defense while the offense coordinator is really working the offense. And I think we've talked about that with a lot of teams. When you have a great head coach, it's that good on defense, let him stay on that side, get you an OC to really take care of the other side. I think he definitely overachieved. I mean, Tom's gone. This team's going to be terrible. I mean, we talked about it before the season. And even him getting this far and even now saying winning the division is enough for me to say, hey, you bought yourself at least another year.
Yeah, I think that you look at what he's been able to accomplish this year, given the body of work that he has in the past. I think that this is definitely his most impressive season as a coach, and I think that he's earned it. I think he's earned another season. I think Baker has played probably the best season of his career this year. Behind offensive line, we all had questions about, but the weapons were there. Christian did mention in the preseason that this could have potentially happened, and it came to fruition. So credit where credit's due there. I think Todd Bowles does keep his job. I did have him as one of the early head coach gets fired candidates earlier this year, but proved me wrong. Arizona Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon.
Really, I mean, we're sitting at the 45-minute mark here. I'll say this. Do we think any NFC West coach, this is the last division we have to talk about, I'd be shocked if any of them are gone. Pete Carroll, if he wants to retire, maybe, but he has really never shown signs of slowing down. McVay, you've got a Super Bowl. You're proven. You've got that job. Kyle Shanahan, one of the brightest minds, one of the best rosters in football. And then you get to the guy you just mentioned. Arizona, they had nothing. And they didn't end up with the number 1 overall pick because they played hard for this first-year coach. A really good sign considering where they were with Kingsbury. So I think every NFC West coach is retained. You guys have any differing thoughts there?
The only one that I would mention is Pete Carroll. I think he may be ending his tenure at some point if they don't get over the hump.
All I'm going to say about Pete Carroll is as long as he can keep chewing that bubble gum and throw that rock in practice, he ain't going nowhere, man. He going to stay Arizona, rough year, first-year head coach, no starting quarterback you can argue for more than half the season. But other than that, the other teams we know they're set in stone.
Yeah. Well, I think that covers every division, every team. There's a lot of guys that are going to be on the hot seat once NFL regular season comes to an end, but maybe a little less so than what we envisioned at the season's beginning because we've had teams overachieve, and there's only been a handful of teams underachieve, and those that have already moved on past their guys in season. So it's a matter of watching out what names pop up in these interviewing things. I know the NFL changed the rules this year. You can't interview until right at the Super Bowl now. You used to be able to do it during, like, soon as the season ended, I believe. But guys are going to have to wait for these teams that make a deeper playoff run to get interviews on guys they really like. You know, those teams tend to be the ones that churn out these head coaching positions for the next season. So something to watch on. I'm sure something we'll talk about in the off season once we have a clearer picture. But I enjoyed talking with it today and breaking down each team with you guys. Unless you have anything else to add, I'll wrap us up and get us out of here.
Nope.
All right. Well, I appreciate all the listeners who tuned in and joined us for this Takes episode, the final regular season Takes episode of the 2023 and 2024 football season. Thank you to all the listeners who joined along. Please do us a favor, as always, give us a follow on Twitter. I am at ChaseOwens96. Christian is at C_Mills241. Brian is at Sarver_Brian. Do us a favor and like, share, subscribe to the YouTube, TikTok pages, the Instagram pages, all Hot Route Takes. Rate, review the podcast itself on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And continue to like, share, and comment on every video we get posted for you guys. We thank you all for listening, and we will see you for the NFL Week 18 recap show, the final recap of regular season football when we get together next time. So thank you all for listening. Until next time, guys. Peace out.
Bill ain't done. Bill ain't done.